Welcome back to the Cowpacker Bros podcast. Jason and I are fresh off the segment discussing the muted and understated Capitol support rally. The rally that they swore wasn't supporting the January 6th cosplay insurrectionist enthusiasts.
And why were you there, folks? Why were you there? Really? Come on.
Why are you there? Yeah. Yeah, and this is you're literally better off being at a fucking porn set than being at the fucking Capitol on January 6th. Okay,
Bro,
you
you've been
you
out of pocket this show, bro. Who you
got
do?
what what
Whoa,
you
you've
would
been out
be
of pocket this episode, man.
you would fit in better on the fucking set of Boogie Nights than you were on the fucking Capitol steps on January 6th in support
Bro,
of the president.
bro, you are out of control right now. I'm gonna need you to bring it back in right now. You're going out there now. Okay. I'm making this a short for the social media. This is gonna be a short. You bringing that up?
Yeah,
Comparing the insurrection to a porn set. That's awesome.
yeah, that's what Roller Girl said. That's what she said.
Folks, just in case you don't know, Terrence is referencing the movie called Boogie Nights starring Mark Wahlberg and I believe Heather Graham, if I remember correctly. So
Yes, Heather
if you've
Graham.
never seen, yeah, if you've never seen the movie, probably need to watch
Yeah,
it now so you know what he's talking about. So
yeah, I think that's good Calpart Bros watching slash reading material because that's a great movie.
but folks, if you're gonna watch the movie, you have to watch it to the very end, the last scene until the credits start rolling. Because that's almost
Or
the best part of the movie. So
that other thing, start rolling. Anyways, in this segment, we're going to be talking about something near and dear to, I think, all of us here on planet Earth, which is trying to get kids to be more active. And I think that's really why you proposed this segment, Jason. It's just trying to get kids from in front of a screen. And when you said a screen, I think you really meant, it could be a phone, it could be a tablet, it could be a television. So what are some things so what are some ideas that you have or that the article that you referenced in terms of getting kids from in front of a screen, like what's important about that to you?
well, before I go into that, one thing I just do want to point out is, we referenced a CNN Health article regarding this, which is titled "Convincing Your Child to Leave Their Screens Behind to Exercise is Hard, but Here's How to Do It." But within that article, they reference a report from Common Sense Media, and I'll kind of read this excerpt of the article. Researchers have seen a decline in the amount of physical activity children as young as age 6 years old engage in per day. According to the 2019 study published in Pediatrics, at the same time, children 8 to 12 years old are getting almost 5 hours of screen time per day, while 13 to 18-year-olds are spending over 7 hours glued to their screens per day. So just kind of keep in mind when you hear the numbers 5 hours and 7 hours that we're only awake for a certain portion of the day during a 24-hour a day period. Okay, because obviously we're sleeping. We'll pretend people are getting 8 hours of sleep, so it leaves the other 16. And we're gonna hope that kids are focused in school for most of the time. So we'll cut out that 6 hours a day. So at least only 10 other hours that they're probably gonna be awake in the day. So 5 to 7 of those hours they're spent in front of the screen, which makes sense thinking of all the things that um, kids can do from the screen, short of going outside and playing with their actual friends. They're playing with their friends now on screens, video games, TV, stuff like that, which isn't a bad thing doing those things because it's still some interaction. But that's all they're doing is where the problem comes into play. To answer your question, what does it mean to me, or why is it's important to me? Um, just from the health, physical aspect of it, obviously you and I both are relatively active. We try to go to the gym, do other things, stay active, stay moving. Even if it's just riding a bike and things like that. Um, And I think that's important to do even when you're a kid. I mean, also you still have that kid metabolism, which helps stuff like that. But
I
but
never
also
had that kid metabolism, by the way. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This kid
well,
metabolism you're talking about, Jason, it's a foreign concept. I've had the metabolism of a 40-year-old black man since I was 4.
so now that you are that age, what's your metabolism like now? Like 80-year-old?
Probably close to a 42-year-old black male.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
just have to, I just work out like crazy to overcome it, basically. Because some of those people that I've seen, somebody like Michael Phelps that literally had to eat like 20,000 calories a day just to maintain the physique that he had. I'm just like, that is not me. Let's try 1,200 calories to even get a glimpse of trying to lose a pound at one point. I'm not there yet. I'm not there anymore. Thank God. And I'm very, happy where I am weight wise right now. I'm actually at 270, but I definitely remember being heavier than that and trying to pull out all the stops to try to do something drastically to change my physique. So I get what you're saying, all jokes aside, about having a kid metabolism. And even more so, I agree with you wholeheartedly that there is a kind of a physical activity crisis facing our country, because of it's a combination of things. I don't want to blame screen. I don't want to blame phones because or televisions because we've been down that road before. Like it's so to me it's intellectually lazy to propose that because for a lot of people, for example, on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, these social media avenues, they came up with the term influencer. Why? Because you had people that actually worked out all the fucking time and they turned it into a lifestyle. They literally turned it into a fucking job. So for me, blaming screen time is I'm going to be conflicted about that because yeah, that might be part of the story, but it's not the entire story. And I feel like there needs to be more focus, especially from the article referencing Common Sense Media, where okay, it's kind of like uh, guns don't kill people, people kill people. I'm like, yeah, screens don't tell you when to put that shit down and go outside. Your parents do, or your peers do, and I think for me that matters more than that will always matter more than what tech is at our disposal because your parents and your peers will always have more influence. And honestly, I'm of the opinion that they always should, you know?
I do know Terrence. And I actually agree with you. Definitely wasn't trying to go down the road of blaming, the actual TV, you know, for
The idiot box.
yeah, well, yeah, yeah. As you know what though, it's probably in some cases it's probably still an accurate term to use the idiot box. But yeah, definitely not blaming the idiot box or the idiot phone screen or tablet or whatever as to why, oh, this is your fault, screen. No, I agree with you completely. It's all about parents because parents. Let's be honest here. For the most part, parents are the influence, especially when they're preteen years and younger, especially. So it's all about that influence. Are you encouraging your kids to get off the phone? Get off the screens, go outside, interact with your friends. And also the activity doesn't have to be sports or team sports. If that's your outlet, great, but it doesn't have to be that. Like I mentioned before, riding your bike, going swimming, hiking, walking, whatever it may. Just go to if there's a park, go to the park, figure out something to do. Just something to be active. Keep the mind going beyond just whatever's on your screen. But I agree with you. That starts with the parents. Um, Encouraging them to do things, get off the screens. When it's family time, encouraging put the phones down, put them away, don't bring them to the table. I found an interesting article from nothing like CNN or anything, but It's a parentclub.scott. Basically has like 12 tips for reducing your kid's screen time, and that was one of them. Whenever it's family time, make sure phones are away, no screen time, turn the TV off, talk, play games when it's game time, family night, make a family night, whatever it is, sharing a meal, anything. There's anything a parent can do or family can do to reduce the screen time when necessary. But one thing you mentioned or kind of hinted towards is that I do think it's important. I mentioned this as well on a uh, Today news article that reducing screen time is great, but you don't have to eliminate it. I think I mentioned to you yesterday that I was watching again a YouTube video about one of the guys I follow. He kind of goes to different neighborhoods across the country and kind of get to know people that live there, to show people what the neighborhood's really like and some of the people there. Well, he actually went to like an Amish community not long ago, and even though they had this family had like other electronics in the house, they didn't have a TV. So the kids are pretty much forced to play outside with their friends. Not to say we got to use that as an example, but just but that goes in what I was saying. You don't necessarily need to eliminate the issue, but maybe reducing it, because as I'm sure as a parent yourself, I'm sure you would agree that 5 to 7 hours a night on in front of a screen of some sort is a lot. But one last thing I'm going to say real quick, before I let you jump in, is that I definitely have to say too that how much of this applies to adults as well. Like how much screen time do adults get, whether it be from work or otherwise? So,
I mean,
so
you and
maybe
I are
that's some.
definitely and plus between the work and this enterprise, we are definitely clocking hell. We're probably at the 12 level
This is true.
because we're being the high performers that we are, both professionally and at this little excursion of ours known as Cal Park Bros. We are absolutely clocking in at 12 plus. Now, for for me, it's never really been about the number. It's been the number. If you just look at the number, well, the number kind of looks absurd.
Agreed.
You know, every modern phone says, "Oh, well, your screen time was at this." I'm like, "Yeah," but that number in of itself means jack shit to me. I mean, I work in marketing. This screen is a primary instrument for me to actualize my job. And the same could be said for you. Um,
Before we go on to the next point, real quick. So, I disagree with you. The number itself, when it comes to, I guess, technically, even a kid too, the number itself doesn't mean anything. But I guess it's about the quality of what that time is doing. So, I mentioned before, kids at school. When that if they're getting screen time there, which I'm sure it counts. But I look at that more as quality screen time because you're using it for your education. Same thing for us, me and you at work. Yeah, that may be included in our screen time, but obviously that's something we need for our quality screen time. That's what we do to get paid, right? So I guess to that point, it would be coming off of same with kids too. How much of your screen time is being spent when you're not at school or work? Is most of your time on the screen in those times too? And for kids, maybe now that they're going actually back to school, as opposed to having to use a screen for that primarily because you're working, doing school from home. Maybe that might help with it. I don't know, or it could make it worse. Who knows? I guess that's up to the individual family. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily include. I mean, I know it's going to count to the total number. But I look at screen time and work in school more as quality time because you need that for either educationally or because that's how you get paid. So
yeah, I think a lot of this, I agree where you should have some sort of stop gaps where it's like, okay, there's certain scenarios where you at least need to be mindful of how much you're being on the phone. And I say that as someone who absolutely had a phone slash internet addiction uh, probably well over 10 years ago, where I literally could not engage face to face because I was so wrapped up into what the fuck was going on my iPhone at that point. So I say this as someone who has had to cope with the tech of our day, um, and be able to be cognizant and cope, and still work to be not only a productive member of society, but also the husband, the dad that people know and love. So I am incredibly sensitive to this idea about how much screen time is too much screen time. Short answer, you'll know. You'll know. If
So,
if your child literally um is so wrapped up into what's going on YouTube, but they haven't paid attention to the fact that everybody else is making dinner, then yeah, it's you just have to have a brief conversation about, hey, you should probably make a plate. But that doesn't require a fucking uh essay, a treatise on the problem with kids today. That just requires a conversation as a parent. That's it.
the problem with kids today, that's definitely a beyond this one segment, topic, which, we could go into
And
that, but I don't want to sound like, get off my lawn guy. So we're
I
not
mean,
going to make a segment about that. So
that is literally, yeah. There's nothing better than the get off my lawn guy. And given the fact that you don't have children, you're already going to have detractors. That's the funny part. And ironically, me being a parent of 3.5, I will also have detractors
track me,
because
baby.
we're guys and we don't know shit anyway, at least according to some. So, but
Is
that's
that
just
feedback
my
you've gotten officially?
yeah. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents there, man. Where not everything has to be a fucking think piece about kids and phones and shit like that. Because I guarantee you that Catherine Brown had to have some of the same discussions 30 years ago about what she considered to be my overuse of media of the day. That
Oh,
that Nintendo.
yeah, that's not a question. I can tell you, as someone who was partaking and indulging in your screen time and making it worse.
You were enabling it. You're a damn enabler. That's what you are.
Yeah, exactly. So I can definitely attest to the fact your screen time was way too much. Like
It was just right. It was just right some of the time.
I feel bad now the fact that I was enabling you in your addiction. Speaking of which, you mentioned your internet addiction, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who thought about this. Maybe I am. If I am, so what? But you mentioned your internet addiction. Combine that with what you were talking about initially when we started this segment, comparing the insurrection to a certain other industry. What were you doing during these internet addiction days, sir?
Um, I think it was a lot of FOMO. I mean, I'll just flat out say it wasn't like, ooh, I got to check out porn right now. I'll just tell you that, Jason. I'll tell you that outright. It was very much like, oh my God, I got to check out what's going on Facebook right now. I got to check out what's going on Twitter right now. What's going on Black Twitter right now? Hold on, Mom. I got to see what Black Twitter says about this information. What does Ja Rule think about this recent development in Hollywood? What does the Gram say about veganism? It was a lot of that, dude. It wasn't anything salacious like, oh my God, I just have to check out a great pair of New York boobs right now. It was not that. It was simply, oh, I wanted to see what was going on in that side of town. So I definitely had what I would consider to be some sort of social media FOMO, where I felt like, oh, well, surely something's interesting got to be going on the interwebs, ignoring the fact that I was forsaking people in my own home at that time. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is the level of internet addiction that I was talking about. And I just had to kind of work myself way out of it, fortunately I had, you know, the accountability and love of people like my sister to call me out on my shit and say, okay, I see what you're saying. Surely I can do better than that. Surely my family has earned better than that. So,
And that's why I respect your sister to today, as she definitely has earned her role and deserves her role as the most upstanding of the two Brown children. Um, so and folks, I mean that with highest regard to Terrence, but yeah, I said what I said. So
yeah,
and
no
fully
lie. Oh, So
Yeah, and I fully admit that when I asked that question about the whole, your addiction, I was not expecting it to go down the road of your answer. So that was a backfire on me. So there you
no,
go.
no. I I should answer truthfully since you asked me. I mean, I feel like you were trying to fry me, but I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll just
Yeah.
tell you what the issue was, because that's the issue that my sister said it was. So, um, and the good news is that, just because my sister was holding me accountable doesn't mean that that didn't come from a place of love.
Oh, of course.
That's the most important thing. I mean, we talk about this article on being active, but engagement is not only physical, it's emotional and spiritual, and it's being in the moment. And she was calling me out on the fact that there were familial needs going on and happening, and life was happening, and I was missing out on it. And for that, I thank her, because had she not said anything, hell, I probably still might be there on Planet FOMO instead of actually enjoying my fucking family and help, and supporting my family. So
Well, there you go.
cool. Anything else you
Again,
want to talk about related to physical activity for children?
uh, dude, I hate the way you worded that, by the way. But to answer your question, no.
I mean, it's literally what's in the segment. So
The way you worded that was just so weird. I don't know. It just sounded weird. But let's move on because this has gone too far. So,
you think,
well, sure.
right? Well, that concludes our segment on getting kids from in front of a screen. Uh, we'll wrap up the show in the next segment and also give a special shout out for a certain guest segment coming up next on Cow Park Bros.